Hello and welcome to Life Challenges, better known as a conversation with Dr. David Clayman. Our topic today is catastrophes because the world is having catastrophes. We've got a horrible hurricane that has just wiped out North Carolina and Tennessee. We have a war in Israel that we don't know where it's going because it's growing by the minute. We had the longshoremen strike, which by the grace of God has calmed down. Now Milton's going to hit, or Hurricane Milton is going to hit Florida. They keep correcting me, Hurricane Milton.
Depends on where you're from.
I don't know. It's not so much how you deal with catastrophes, because if the mudslide's coming at you, you don't have much choice. But it's how people react to, I mean, if you have watched Facebook during all of this, people's reaction, people's negativity, I think we've got a problem out there that really needs to be resolved.
Tell me about, so I do not spend much time.
For example, small problem, the longshoremen strike. Do you know that the stores sold out of toilet paper and paper towels because people panicked?
Yeah.
Toilet paper is not shipped in by ship. It's made here.
Doesn't matter.
But people don't think.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to stop and, well, anyway, then you've got the Hurricane Helene. People are saying that FEMA is horrible. They're talking about the electric company, talking about how they don't have electric. Why aren't they at, why haven't they reached this point yet? Not understanding the depth and complexity of what has happened. It just floors me. And how many employees do you think FEMA has? It bothers me that people don't think it through. Instead, they act, react, and they trigger other people to act and react the same way. So that made me think about catastrophes.
Well, I started looking at some of the popular stuff that's being written about how to get through these things. There's I've done a lot of crisis work in my life, and we were taught what to do. And the problem is some of the things that we were taught to do didn't work when we went in to do the crisis interventions. They have the Red Cross on scene. I'm going to just kind of give you they have the Red Cross on scene. And really, probably out of everybody to start, the Salvation Army, and now FEMA are the most important kinds of people. And on the way down, I was thinking, there's a guy named Abraham Maslow who did the Maslowian hierarchy. I don't know if you ever remember that triangle. Do you ever?
Explain.
Okay, so at the bottom is basic needs like food, shelter, clothing.
Oh, yes.
And at the top is self-actualization, that we're really nice, touchy-feely people, and we're all relating kumbaya. It's just self-awareness and growth. So I was thinking, last night at around 11 o'clock, the Weather Channel came on and said, notice, you are to anticipate thunderstorms, rain, and heavy gusts of wind.
Right.
And when we have looked at the pictures of what happened in places, Asheville, my goodness gracious, every place.
Unbelievable.
And we have these huge trees off behind our house that if they go down the hill, we'll be all right. If they come up the hill, we're doomed. And we said, my goodness, what would happen if one of those huge trees crashed through our roof tonight? Just that. At which point, my brain went to, oh my goodness, I got to get my computer out. It's got all my information on it. It's got our checking account. And even that thought brought anxiety.
Sure.
And what I see, I'm going to go back again, what I see when I see these people who are courageous, the ones we look at, devastated, and that's the most important part. I want you to hold on to that for a second. Bewildered, shocked. And in instances that have just, of the best of humanity, they give something that they have that somebody else doesn't, and so they have less of it now. And I watched the man, and I think it was Tennessee, that watched the bridge get washed out, just stood there and just watched the waters come in amazement. And I watched one man down in Florida who lost his house the last time and rebuilt. they were just about done, and the news commentator says, "You staying?" And he says, very calmly, "Probably."
My heart goes out to North Carolina because that was so not anticipated. That, I mean, if you live in Florida, you're surrounded by water. You know that at some place you're going to get wet.
Everybody's playing the odds.
But
Not in Western North Carolina.
No.
And the devastation was humongous. So I think the setting the stage is that it really doesn't matter where you live. I mean, the first time's the first time, and it's horrible. And if you get hit multiple times, you start, getting criticized by the outer world. Why do you stay? You get criticized by your family. Why do you stay?
Right.
And all of the human emotions, loss of all your photographs, devastation that you just built your house, it was your dream house, and it gets washed away in a matter of minutes by these horrendous things.
And of course, there's no flood insurance because why? You live on a mountain.
You don't buy it.
Yeah. But think about you at your age, or go back to the age of 50, and everything is wiped out. Your business.
Oh, I couldn't.
Your home.
I've gone through that. Yeah.
You would have to. I mean, you don't have the clothes on your back. I mean, that's all you've got is the clothes on your back. I mean, you'd have to start totally from nothing.
Well, if you look at this, it's the loss of your life as you've known it. It's catastrophic.
Yes.
Catastrophic. So the closest thing we have is when people get sick and they die suddenly. And instead of a person dying, it's your old life dying. The people up at Clendenin, when the bridge got washed out,
Right.
and they didn't have that access. And
Right.
so the immediate. I was trying to put together stages, and one of them is just shock and bewilderment and numbness across the boards. And so, the people that were on top of houses, when you have loss of life, I mean, this is huge. I'm going to leave the political world out of this for a minute because there's nothing we can do with what's going on in the Mideast. Everything's crazy over there right now.
Right.
Okay, and I still have my niece that lives there, 2 nieces. Your comment about Facebook. One is the people on Facebook who write angry diatribes. I'm a Caitlin Clark fan now. I'm going to give you a stupid.
Who isn't?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, lots of people.
But
if you read.
And I don't understand the.
Okay, but that's just, it's human nature. People have found that Facebook is a way for them to say things they couldn't say to anybody's face. They express themselves, they vent, and the idiots are the people who read their postings. I will not read after I hit the first. When I hit this, I stop, and I don't have Facebook. I think I got Instagram. So I think the first part is to recognize that whether you're in the mountains of North Carolina or you're sitting now in Florida or you're anywhere in the swath of this thing, and with Milton coming, people are really on high alert right now because they can't do anything, that helplessness. So what do people do when they feel helpless? They get angry, they get frustrated, they lash out. They try to dispel the fear that they have, and fear often comes out as anger because that's something you can, we've been talking about.
So that would explain their anger at FEMA then, because FEMA wasn't there 24 hours.
Well, we also got this instant. If I had my house wiped out and somebody said FEMA was coming and they didn't show up, as rational as I'd like to think I am, I'd be ticked off for a minute. And then I'd start, because right then, who is the focus of your life when things like this happen? It ain't the people around you. I mean, it might be your neighbors, but it's you, your survival.
Right.
And FEMA is supposed to come in and help. And when you're without your car, without food, without shelter, you're living in a gymnasium of a high school that happened to be on a hill or whatever, you've seen your life's work go down the tubes. Platitudes just don't work.
Right.
And a lot of people go in and try to be nice about it. It's like going to a funeral and trying to find the ideal thing to say. I mean, sometimes you sound like a complete, You got to make an effort. So here's the sequence. These people are angry. So the one thing I would be suggesting to people who now have access to internet, stay away from it. If you go onto a site and there's people making comments, and unless they know what's going on, just disregard them because they're agitating. They're angry, and anger is contagious, and so is feeling helpless. That's the first part. The fact is that things do suck. That's the reality. That's the first thing. You got to just deal with the fact that if you're alive today, is that good enough for you? For every single person that's going through this, it's something different. If you and I, if all of us at the studio sat down and say, okay, so what would happen to us if this went on? Mark may say to us, I'd go into the garage and make sure I had all my instruments high enough up that they didn't get ruined. And we would go on with things. You worry about your husband down, being here at the legislature, working, all that. So you really have to take people where they're at and recognize they're just people. And sometimes people just aren't pleasant, and they're the least pleasant when something goes wrong. And so the goal becomes, how do you figure out what an individual needs that you can provide and let them feel like there is hope? And this is really, and I don't want to sound Pollyanna-ish about this.
Right.
But first, just don't read the internet. And I mean, I am, if something is not funny or pleasant or positive, I just skip it. When people start to rant, and I don't care what it's about, I'm gone. I don't even bother with the internet. FEMA. Because the people in Western North Carolina, I got to remember how our geography goes. I mean, imagine if it hit the other part of the coast where they would wipe out all of those islands. That would have devastated that whole series of islands coming up from Myrtle Beach. Mm-hmm. What do you do? And that's the first part. What do we do? And these people are lashing out because they don't know what to do. There's no communication. There's no cell phones. You don't know who's still alive. You don't know who's dead. You haven't been allowed back in to see your property yet, to see what's left of it.
Some of it haven't even been taken out of it yet because they're stuck.
So if you do go, if you sheltered in place and you stayed, you're isolated, and you can't get to the store, and you can't get water, and you can't get food. So listen to all the I can'ts. And so what can you do? You can get angry anonymously very often or behind the scenes, and everybody's got an opinion. Everybody makes assumptions, and what does assumptions mean? It's that old phrase. So, a couple things that I've just watched when I get called in. I just had a series of times that I've been called in when there's been bad things that have happened. And what works is just showing up. That's what happens. We had a very bad accident years ago with a fire truck, and I got called down to the hospital, and I didn't know any of the people there, but I just showed up because I was called. And I made some really good friends after it was over, and there was a loss of life.
I think that people do appreciate the linemen who they've come from everywhere.
Coming from everywhere. So I will tell you that the 90% of the people that live in New England have never been south of Washington, D.C. They don't know anything about Virginia and North Carolina. I didn't before I came and started living here. So all of this, Sharon, but you see, you just began the transition is what is happening. Remember, negatives are 9 times, minimally 9 times more powerful, negatives are, than positives. So for one negative comment, it takes 9 minimum. And some research said up to 27. But 9 positive comments without any changes to overcome the one negative. So if you've got all those negatives going out and people want to say positives, the chances of anybody listening to them is minute. So this is the trouble. This is what catastrophes put people out of control. It takes them to the base levels, bottom of the hierarchy. It destroys families because of fear. The health risks.
I hadn't even thought about the health risks.
Oh my God! The first thing that comes to me is, it says on the thing, preparing for they say a catastrophe, kind of oxymoron because catastrophes usually are not totally expected. But get all of your medicines together.
Well, see, North Carolina didn't expect. Florida does expect. And Georgia was pre-warned to the point that they had less
But
problems.
not to what they got.
But going into the mountains was 40 trillion gallons of water. I mean, that's just...
But you know what? It's 40 gazillion gallons of trouble. You said you couldn't speak words. But people who have been burned out of their homes in fires here, it's the enormity of the scale and the lack of the idea that we can do anything about it. It's so overwhelming. And the only thing we can begin to do is, in our own ways, set our priorities that are reasonable, not feel that there's a conspiracy against you, realize that those of you that have had pull to be able to get stuff may not have any pull. We're reduced to our general thing. And there are some things you can do. One is, it sounds corny as crap, but it's true. All these things you see now about mindfulness and as a coping skill for people who are in trauma situations, first responders and stuff like this, even those of us in healthcare, especially the ones that were working COVID, so we've already forgotten about COVID.
Right.
So taking care of yourself becomes a really major issue, and people aren't even listening to that because they're panic-stricken, they're hurting, and they're frightened. So the simplest part is to find 5 minutes to deep breathe, and try to go, the therapy people say, go to a good place in your head. And you can't have a positive and negative thought in your head at the same time. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the first thing people have to know. If you got negative thought, try. It won't work all the time, but try to find 15 seconds of positive. Try to remember what it was like after all the stuff went and you went around and you took roll call and everybody was there, including the dogs and the cats. The people that had farms and watching the devastation of their animals, I don't know how they're dealing with that. But the one thing you have to do is take care of yourself. If you've got cardiac disease, if you've got diabetes, those are really tough things if you don't have your medicine. And happily, they're making some effort with the EMS and everything to get you your medicine. But try the deep breathing. I'm not being corny. I've tried other things, but the deep breathing and just in through your nose, out through your mouth.
It's called yoga breathing.
That's actually, that was the original. Mm-hmm. But we've been doing progressive relaxation. It's the same.
You put real technical names on it.
Well, all the stuff, there's nothing new. It's just repackaged. I mean, the yogas took it, it's there, and then there's other variations, but they all do the same thing. Calming your arousal responses, getting your body to be clear enough that you can make some choices. Don't overdo it. That's another part. People will go in there and they start. It's hard to do all these things, but you can't go in and on your own if you're 77 years old. You're not going to be able to go and start pulling stuff for 10 hours at a time. Pull for a half hour, take a 10-minute break.
When I get upset or angry or whatever it is, the one thing I've learned, and I've said this before, is I stop. I stop. Right then, dead on my track, and I stop. And the breathing. I do the yoga breathing. I stop because I've got to think it through. And if I don't think it through, I react. When I react, I screw it up, and it becomes a catastrophe.
But see, the catastrophe is self-feeding. If you go in and you have a series of thoughts in your head that are unrealistic, and you're going to flick the switch on your circuit breaker box that you find hanging from a tree, and going to light anything up. And I'm not saying that casually. I don't know how I would handle being in a situation like those people have been in. I've got, between my office and my home, it's my whole life. And I got as much as I can stored to the cloud. I'm going to make sure that I have everything at home stored to the cloud by the end of this month. But we don't think it's going to happen to us, and we did. And this is a once in I mean, this is a one-time. They've never had anything like this happen.
That,
in the West.
right, yeah.
Okay, so what do? They don't have any planning. You said it earlier. The Floridians, they put up their plywood. They get ready. When they hear it, they go, "Here it comes again." I mean, you can almost hear them saying that. Some of them are bravado. We're going to stick it out. The people of the Western Mountains of North Carolina had no idea.
Right, but you said it yourself, like for Florida, they're risk takers. They gamble on it because Florida is the most uninsured state in the union. I mean, those people have, because they can't afford it. Because insurance
People are
companies, because this is the second hurricane in what, 2 weeks? So insurance companies are at their max, and so you've got to pay for that insurance.
But people don't even get to the insurance part because they can't get to the phone. They can't find their policy.
Right,
They can't do it.
right.
So what do? We do the deep breathing, and the idea of not trying to get everything done at once. This is the
Just living should be the priority.
well, but recognizing your body, not pushing beyond your fatigue part. I just participated in something that I pushed beyond my fatigue part, and I was wiped out for 3 days afterwards because I had not done that kind of activity for a while. But imagine being on top of not sleeping, or sleeping, being a private person and sleeping in a gym on a cot.
Or sleeping in the woods because you don't have a bed, you know.
So what can you do? You can start focusing on yourself. You can set priorities in a way that you're not scattered in what you're trying to do. Because if you see a truck with water coming down the street, but you've been going to try to find a place that would offer you some of your medications, which one do you choose? Well, you have to kind of do that. Work in half-hour max segments and take 10 minutes off. It isn't going to change the outcome of anything very much, but it'll change the income of you. I mean, the incoming energy relief. Realize, this is the hardest one for me, is that we never always had air conditioning. We didn't have stoves. There were fires, and for a week or two, you make it into a camping trip. I mean, I'm not trying to be. We need supplies, but I want to go back to the anger at FEMA. Even in West Virginia, when we have travesties, one of the things we say is we're the best place in the world because everybody cares about each other.
Right.
But then there's where's the Department of Highways? Where when the roads washed out? Where is the phone company? Where are the cable companies? Where are these people? And when you see, if you've ever been on the interstate, when we have a tragedy, and you see the lineup of cars, but people who get on there and badmouth FEMA, it's because one idiot made a comment about FEMA that was negative about one aspect of what they're doing, and all the people who are addicted to the internet, looking for bad things, because that's what they're doing, start to badmouth. And some of those people that were on there probably weren't even close to being near to North Carolina.
No, most of them are located here, and it's just a chance for them to vent, to go off the. That's what got me upset in the sense that, what do you know? Do you know how?
But it's like this now.
Fact check.
But they're not going to. They're not going to be like you. They're just not. That they wouldn't be writing that crap on the internet if they were like you, fact checking. They won't do that.
When the derecho hit.
That was a fun afternoon.
That was a fun afternoon for 2 weeks.
Well, we watched our trees going. You know.
I had 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
We had
2 weeks of nothing except extreme heat. Horrible, horrible experience. I cussed everybody under God's sun. Didn't get me anywhere. But as soon as that was over, and as soon as AEP got my power back, I called Generac. Because I said, this will never happen again.
Mm-hmm. Well, but there's one way. But imagine being in North Carolina. This has never happened before. And you go out and you look at Generac and it costs
$8,000.
Okay, and you don't have $8,000. But then you do the way. Do I do $8,000 to rebuild my house so I can get into it? Or do I put $8,000 into a Generac?
But number one, the weather's going to change, so they're not going to be hot. Number two, they just need a home because it's going to be, They have the weather of God. They've got cool weather. They live in the woods. They live in so they don't have that. But the point I'm making is you've got so many groups of people who don't plan. I take North Carolina as being the most. I watched that man who he and his fiance were home. The mud came. She went that way. He went this way. Totally, they couldn't control. I saw the helicopter take him out, and she's been pronounced dead. They found her body 3 or 4 days later. Mm-hmm. That's the tragedy of something that happens so quick.
But you can't plan for that.
You cannot plan for that.
So you go to, so the number one thing for me is to get ready to start grieving.
Yeah, and he needs a David Clayman.
No, he doesn't. He needs God. He needs his friends. He doesn't need a professional coming in.
You don't think they need professionals?
Oh, they do need professional, but not. If the professionals know what they're doing, if they come in with the goopy stuff, hi, I'm.
Oh yeah. All right.
No, but
okay.
they need crisis. They need people that are crisis trained, that know what they're doing, that can be there as a stabilizing voice. That my mental health friends that are crisis trained, because I can't. It's been a while since I've been able to go out and do that kind of stuff. I would go if I were younger. Mm-hmm. They were there. They were there with a shovel. They were standing next to them. They weren't doing therapy. They were doing humanity.
They were being there, like you said earlier. They were just showing up.
Showing up. If someone came and I was trying to get back into my house and I couldn't find a way in, and somebody said, hey, let me see if I can try to find, this is your house, yeah, and they found a way in, do you know how much that would be therapeutic for me?
Right, yeah.
But not sitting there. Now, the idea of when you sit down and if somebody's having chest pains or they're getting dizzy and they faint, you sit down and you say, hey, this may help. I know this is a problem, but I want you just to take a couple minutes, and this will be 5 minutes of your time. I want you to breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth, and try to place yourself. So what happens if you try to place yourself in a positive place when you're in that kind of catastrophe, is you get partially the way to the positive thought, and then all of a sudden that positive thought triggers what I've lost. So you have to be ready for all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Time is important, but grieving, that's to me, people are trying to
be brave, strong.
Yeah, and rebuild before they've even let go of what's there. They don't even know what they've lost. And if you watch people who have folks die in a family who's been a central figure to the family's in chaos. All the rules are gone. So being nice to yourself and being nice to the people next door is going to be really important, but it's really, really hard. When we went up towards Clendenin when the bridge got washed out, and it was out, what, 3 years?
Oh, it's longer than that now.
But it's that little shopping center's thriving again. My words to them is, and I know this is not giving a lot of answers.
There are no answers.
Look at what you can do. When you try something and it doesn't work, don't keep trying to do that. That's the operational definition of insanity. Recognize, and this is the part for me. What was all of the forest fires and all the stuff that's happened, and then you go back 10 years later and you wouldn't know that there was a forest fire. You go back to some of the towns that have rebuilt. Look at Maui.
It hasn't, yeah.
They're already doing it. They're already rebuilding. They're bringing tourists back.
On that note, we have to go. But on behalf of Dr. Clayman, I'm Sharon King, thanking you for watching the Library Television Network, and stay off social media for now. Bye-bye.
Forever.